Welcome to the YouTube channel of St. Peter's Church, Bandra, Mumbai. This is the second session in our series of the State of the Nation. Our Faith Celebration Committee of the parish decided that as a preparation for Independence Day, we should have some idea of what's happening in our world, in our country. And so we thought of three sessions. Yesterday's session was on the needs and demands of labor in the background of constitutional guarantees. Today, we look at housing, at habitation. The pandemic has brought attention to the type of housing in Mumbai, which perhaps many of us have not realized. We are told that Mr. Ratan Tata, the eminent industrialist and philanthropist of the country, recently spoke about the habitation in Mumbai. He says, we should be ashamed of the type of community that we have been creating. The happenings of the last few months should have been a wake-up call for all of us. There should be a re-examination of what we consider to be acceptable standards in terms of a quality of life. He was talking in the background of the COVID virus spreading in Dharavi and in other areas of habitation where people are densely packed up together, no social distancing possible. We have invited an eminent architect of the city, Mr. Pankaj Joshi, who is on the executive committee of the Urban Design Research Institute. He's a conservation architect, and he gives us a very, very clear understanding of the type of housing that the majority of our city, people of our city are living in. And then he proposes what we could see as the way forward. Let's listen to Mr. Pankaj Joshi.
So the issue of housing in Mumbai is as cryptic as the virus which is spreading in different parts. And as we ascribe the spread of the virus to issues of densification, to the issues of mobility, to issues of sanitation, we find that the city of Mumbai has all these layers, and still we do find that the mystery of provision of housing is something which we have been grappling for more than 7 decades. And if you look at this image, you realize that city has layers of housing types. However, two predominant housing types virtually define the landscape of Mumbai. Since 19th century, we can broadly classify the housing types into 3 broad categories. The first one are the chawls. The second one, which we say is the normal housing type, which is called informal settlements or slums, where bulk of Mumbaikars live. And the third type, which is a cluster of built forms, which consists of apartments, bungalows, and other forms of housing. A chawl was essentially a single unit dwelling constructed for mill workers in the early part of the 19th century. Are typically multi-storied buildings with houses in a single row, a common veranda, and common toilets. And all of us have seen the chawl house form, the Dattatreya Chawl at Grant Road, essentially has a common veranda with common toilets. The artistic representation of chawls do present a a beautiful layer of Mumbai's culture, and it's kind of widely represented in English as well as Marathi literature. The normal housing, or we prefer to call the informal housing, the slum essentially has been defined as dwellings which are unfit for human habitation, dwellings which have design of buildings which are narrow or faulty in arrangement of streets, lack in ventilation, light, sanitation, and are detrimental to safety, health, and morals. That's the definition from the census of 2011. But this normal typology is something which more or less houses or accommodates, assimilates most of the labor force in Mumbai. The other house forms, the bungalows, apartments, and other dwellings, are essentially a cluster of rooms with similar sets in a building. The bungalow form also was the common form in the 18th and 19th century, with examples in indigenous settlements of Kotachiwadi, in the Koriwadas of Warsaw, Mad, Marve. And then since 19th century, we have the apartment types. If you look at the broad distribution of this typology, in 1950s, half of Mumbai's population lived in chawls. Around 1/3 lived in slums, and rest of the built form constituted housing for 20% population. In 4 decades, this virtually flipped, where half of the population lived in slums, 1/3 of the population lived in chawls, and balanced 20% still retained their housing in other forms. The 2011 census, although was questioned by several statisticians, found that 42% of Mumbaikars live in slums, around 28% live in chawls, and 30% constituted for housing in other forms such as apartments, independent houses. So we still find a bulk of citizens in Mumbai live in this informal or normal housing, followed by chawls, and then other forms of housing. And it's quite evident with how it is kind of spread in Mumbai. If you really look at the city of Mumbai, we realize that slums occupy only around 3,500 hectares, which is 8% of the land mass, virtually housing 42% of city's population. That's 5.5 million. More or less the same population of the whole country of Jordan. And if you look at this graph, we realize that although the demand for housing has gone up, we require 15 lakh houses or 1.5 million houses. In last 60 years, we've been able to create only 3 lakh houses. So the deficit between the supply and demand is that area or is that housing which is provided by the so-called slums. So we have a city which is a juxtaposition of apartment blocks, other housing types, and the interstitial spaces are virtually occupied by slums. The interstitial spaces are the ones along railway tracks, along nalas, on the remaining hills, account for nearly 8% of Mumbai's land. And these house forms, although are accommodating most of the urban poor, are extremely deficient in services, utilities, amenities, especially water and sanitation. The city has formed a new form in order to accommodate this slum-like form. And it's a vertical unit in which these are housed, and it's called the Slum Rehabilitation Unit. It's done by an authority which is called SRA. And this unit started in 1990s as part of the Shivashahi Punarvasan Prakalpa, which kind of changed forms to SRS, Slum Rehabilitation Schemes, and finally into authority called SRA, which has different iterations of these house forms. Starting from ground plus 4 walk up, they have now grown to ground plus 7, further going as high as ground plus 22, and I believe the next iteration is ground plus 40 storied blocks. And the drastic difference between the slum rehabilitation housing and the sale component, which is supposed to cross subsidize these housing, is the shift that we see in the state policy, where the state has decided that it will no longer invest or no longer build houses for the urban poor. So if we look at this trajectory from 1990, we realize that we built nearly 160,000, 1.6 lakh SRA units with the requirement of nearly 1.5 million or 15 lakh. So in a span of 27 years, we built around 160,000 or 1.6 lakhs, 1.6 lakhs houses. If we continue with the same pace, it may require nearly 250 years to formalize most of these slums into these slum rehabilitation units, and we neither have the time nor the resources to house such a large number of people. What is affordable housing? Affordable housing, as per the draft development plan, is a range from 5 years of median annual income to 12 years, which translates into approximately 12 to 28 lakh rupees for a 269 square feet house. And that's the median income which is derived out of the revised draft development plan of Mumbai. So how do we really create an affordable housing stock? We have to look at 4 ways with which we can deal and create affordable housing stock. The first way forward would be that state will have to come back into creation of housing. The whole clarion call of roti, kapda, makan, we have achieved a degree of parity in distribution of food grain and food. We have opened up the whole market for textile and kapda, but the housing sector still remains underprovided. So the policy of 1990 would need to be rethought, and we cannot just depend on private sector to provide housing. So my first suggestion would be, can we bring back the government stake in creation of housing? And if we start looking at the kind of stock which is created by government now, in lieu of creating 50 to 60,000 affordable houses a year, states authorities like MHADA, SRA, SIDCO, MMRDA roughly creates 1,000 to 2,000 units which are sold in the open market. These are quite well done in terms of MHADA housing units, but you realize that the range of these houses for middle income and higher income group ranges from 35 lakhs to 5.8 crore per house. If you look at the real necessity of dealing with this 42% of slums, you realize that we really don't need to formalize this into apartment blocks. And neither do we have resources nor that 200 odd years to deal with that housing. Can we then, at least for the time being, till they are shifted into the slum rehabilitation blocks, provide for water and sanitation, health infrastructure, and solid waste management? So my second proposition is that can we repair, rehabilitate, and service the existing housing stock? It would mean retrofitting settlements like slums and indigenous communities. It would mean provision of individual water supply to each household and sanitation to each household, creation of health infrastructure, and provision of solid waste management. An enabling environment can be created by upgrading the kacha houses to semi-pakka and pakka structures. So the second proposition would be to repair, rehabilitate, and network the existing housing stock. If you look at the current structure of house forms, this is a view from Behrampada, which is just adjacent to Bandra station. We'll realize that it would require substantial effort for the state to convert this into any kind of formal housing. But with a fraction of the cost and effort, we can virtually service the whole slum. So we have some examples, and we are looking at examples across the world. So if you look in Cape Town, South Africa, there are self-help models which have been used in slum areas to rebuild semi-pakka, pakka structures. Similar examples are in Malaysia, in Medellin, in Colombia, they have virtually provided a transport infrastructure through cable cars, virtually servicing this neighborhood and allowing the other infrastructure to be provided to every house forms. Mobility has been seen as a major vehicle. So with the escalators and the cable cars, you virtually network the whole slum with necessary access of municipal services and amenities. The third key to creation of affordable housing, and which most of the authorities have been saying, is there is inadequate land in Mumbai, and therefore we will not be able to provide housing. So how do we bring more land into the city? Bringing land into the city does not really entail that you need to reclaim parts of the bay or you need to reclaim mangroves or environmentally important assets of the city. But bringing land into the city also would mean that can we move people quickly from the Mumbai metropolitan region, the adjacent hinterland, into the place of work within small time through extending mass rapid transport connectivity between Mumbai city and the Mumbai metropolitan region. And if you really look at the sheer scale of land which can be brought into the city's domain for provision of affordable housing is astonishing. If you just integrate a part of the eastern waterfront, you're talking about nearly 1800 acres of land. The salt pan would open up opportunity of nearly 2,600 acres. Mud, Iranga, Manori, Gorai would add nearly 6,500 acres. And we should not forget the missed opportunity of mill lands. And when we deal with the eastern waterfront, salt pan lands or Manori, Marve, Aksa, Mud, Malavani, we should realize that these are the final opportunities in Greater Mumbai for creation of affordable housing. And if you add these lands, it's more than 2.5 times the slum area in the city. So we have more than adequate land in Greater Mumbai to create decent affordable houses for everyone. The way we are extending the metro corridor, elevated rail into the region, that's Vasai Virar, Kalyan, Bhivandi, Kopoli, Kasara, Karjat, even towards Alibag, if these mass transport corridors are further extended into these areas, we can bring nearly 1 million acres of land for affordable housing. So although a general myth is created that city lacks land for creating affordable housing and people will be staying in the slum for a large period of time, the opportunity around us in the region is far larger, and therefore bringing land into city domain can be enabled through a mass rapid transport connection. The fourth proposition is that not everyone can afford to buy a house, and since 1950s we've not really created a decent stock of rental housing. In every city, be it in Europe or Southeast Asia or South America or even in the African cities, you find bulk of the housing is created as rental housing. Europe has a substantially larger number of 60 to 70%. But even if we look at Asian cities, you have excellent examples in Singapore, Hong Kong, where bulk of the housing is rental. So can we create a provision where every building project, we keep 50% of the housing stock, of course incentivized by the state, as rental housing? The leave and license agreement structure remains. But the advantages are many through the backward linkage created in jobs for construction, as well as the forward linkage in rental, maintenance and upkeep. And these housing associations can be dealt with through a PPP or a participatory model between the state and the stakeholders. So if you're looking at examples of public housing, we have examples which might not be the best, but houses more than 60 to 70% of the city's population in Hong Kong, as well as in Singapore. So to conclude this session, in guise of a pandemic, we have been kind of faced with a situation, a kind of cryptic puzzle is that in any health emergency, did the density play an important role? Did provision of services play an important role? Did mobility and public transport play an important role? And we realize each of this is important in terms of running of the city. And taking this whole pandemic as an opportunity, we could actually redefine, reorganize a city to create decent, appropriate, affordable and sustainable housing for all in Mumbai. Thank you.